Remnant 2 is the shooty sequel Soulslike that is finally out and delivers on the original concept and then some, giving us more shooty, more souls, but still retaining a few issues here and there. Remnant 2 takes place many years after the first game. After we manage to free our Earth from the evil root, it turns out the other multiversal planets are still in trouble. So with gun, sword, and skills, we are going to Souls-like our way across to save everyone. Now, for those of you new watching this video, if you want to know what my opinion of the first game was, I felt it was immensely underrated by a lot of people. And while it did have some flaws here and there, and we'll talk about those later on in this video, I loved the core concept. And with Remnant 2, everything that made the first game good is now far better. And there's certainly a lot to go over. So, as with the first game, you'll build your character out of which weapons you want to use, a long gun and a short gun, what weapon mods, which are kind of like special abilities, and of course whatever gear you want to wear. The gear has seen probably some of the most radical changes compared to the first one. There's no longer any armor set pieces. Instead, your rings, which you can now wear 5, and your amulet, are your build-defining items. There are so many rings and bling in this game to use, and they all will come built around various options and builds that you can use. For my character that you're seeing on screen, I have rings on that give me lifesteal when my summons hit enemies. They also provide me with increased defense when I have multiple pets out. And it basically turns my sniper summoner into a tanky-ish sniper summoner. The archetypes are also another very well done addition to this game. In the first one, your class simply dictated what you started out with and there was nothing else going on. Here, the archetypes kind of follow the MO of, say, a Titan Quest or Grim Dawn-esque, where you'll choose a mastery. Each mastery will come with a primary skill which can be modified, unique passives, and an exclusive trait. Traits also now have a limit on how far you can kind of pump them up, and also makes them a lot more important to use. At some point in the game, you'll unlock the ability to dual archetype or dual spec. This will give you a secondary archetype, getting access to their primary and passives. So for me, during this run, and this is being played on Nightmare difficulty, I went just full-on Summoner. We had flying units, and my dog, and everything was just attacking everyone, and so on, and it was a lot of fun. Now, the other aspect behind Remnant and in Remnant 2 that is unique is that it focuses a lot on procedural generation in terms of how the worlds are played out. The world, like the overall structure of a world, is mostly fixed in terms of the general locations and the general kind of layout of the land. What is shuffled each time you start a new adventure or a new campaign is what mini dungeons you'll find, what points of interest you'll get, and what boss fights, both the kind of dungeon bosses and the world boss, that you'll end up going against. This is important because the structure of Remnant is that every event in the game has a unique reward associated to it. This can be a new gun, a new item, new abilities, so on and so on. So how you're going to be able to build your character is going to be dependent on what events you get. And what that means is that if you want to replay Remnant 2, you can probably get several full playthroughs out of this game and have different experiences. They're still going to take place on the same 3 worlds. The world that you're seeing right here, the kind of like purple mist of death world, that was my second world. But there will be other players who may start on another world on their first play and have a completely different experience. And I also want to give a shout out to the designers for very much expanding the points of interest. They are not only far larger, but there's far more variety to them, including many that have special events that don't involve a boss fight. and it adds a lot more variety to the game and to the design of each specific planet. The progression still holds, as you'll need to collect various forms of iron that you'll be used to upgrade your weapons. You no longer upgrade armor. Armor now kind of follows the Dark Souls Neo archetype, where the heavier the armor, it will affect your ability to dodge roll and the speed of it. And this is quite important, because many enemies are very happy to hit multiple times or have very weird attack patterns. The general enemies still follow that same MO of kind of runts, with a few like little heavier enemies, and then the elite fights that can show up randomly. But the boss fights have been greatly-ish improved. There is a wide variety of them in this game, from a giant cube maze that will squash you like a bug, to fighting like more sniper archers, to even a boss that everyone hated that has like this instant death move attack, which I surprisingly did not get, and a boss whose name is Cancer, and fighting it was certainly a horrible experience. And once again, every boss you get means more rewards for you. So as I said at the start, Remnant 2 greatly improves on the first game, but it doesn't quite fix the problems that are inherent with the design. So the first thing is that the game, it's not anti-solo, but I would say it's solo unfriendly, if you get my drift. Many enemies and their encounters will have you being swarmed from all sides, and it is so easy in a lot of cases just to be completely overwhelmed. Many bosses have kind of gotcha attacks that one hit, if you mistime the dodge, you are out. It's that damaging, especially on the higher difficulties, and this would be mitigated if you had a partner or two nearby to get you up. It's why I went with the handler or dog archetype, because a dog can be said to actually revive you, provided that it's not knocked out as well. And several of the boss fights, and even just general elite encounters near the end of the game, can prove to be frustrating. While the bosses are not as health spongy as in the first game, they do get a bit hard to kill later on. As another interesting point, I can tell you with 100% certainty that the final boss of this game is nowhere near as horrible as it was in the first one. But it's bad for another reason, as it turns into visual effect the boss fight for its final phase. And good luck keeping track of where projectiles and things are coming from. If I had a major UX issue with the game, is I would have liked there to be on-screen indicators when there are attacks coming from off-camera, because your minimap does not really show you anything in terms of any enemy positioning or enemy attacks, and it can be very easy for something off-screen to just rock you. If I had any complaints about the progression, is that I don't like the new kind of slabs that you can attach to your healing item. They offer very passive and very minute bonuses. I'm talking 0.786% more attack speed or 1.1% more critical chance, and they just lack any sense of meaningful or visible proof to your progression. The new mutators that can be attached to a weapon provide a special passive are a far greater bonus, but I hope if they decide to keep the whole passive slab feature, that gets reworked at some point in the future. So with that said, if you had the slightest bit inkling of enjoying the first Remnant, then you are going to love this game, and I really did end up liking, even though with all the deaths, all the explosions, and all the running out of ammo, it's still a fantastic game, and one that has far greater legs in terms of its content and progression compared to the first one. There are additional archetypes that you can unlock for your account, and with each one having different powers and different perks, means that you can build quite a variety of characters. And I'm really interested to see how they're going to expand on this with DLC. The first game had, I think it was 2 DLC, maybe 1. They promoted at least 3 for this, and I hope we see a lot more, because I think Gunfire has the formula dialed in now. I would just like to see things just more expanded and more refined in that respect. So if you like your Souls-likes, if you like shooting, and maybe if you have at least one friend who's also like that, and you're looking for a game to play, I highly recommend checking this one out. And in many ways, it does kind of like invalidate the first game, because it is so much improved in terms of design, structure, and balance. I would still recommend at least checking out the first one if you don't have the money to pick this one up. But again, if you have any love of this idea of playing a Souls-like around shooting, then Remnant 2 is going to be certainly worth your time. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games.